Hello and welcome to Military Mayday. We're pointing out a few pieces on the chessboard. Right now we got a little piece here of a holy war. Ain't that something? Already. Netanyahu's holy war. Israeli Prime Minister quotes the Bible and says this is a time for war, and he vows to resign Hamas to the dustbin of history. Netanyahu also said that the ceasefire in Gaza will not happen, as it would be to surrender to Hamas, to surrender to terrorism, to surrender to barbarism. The Bible says there is a time for peace and a time for war. This is a time for war, the Israeli Prime Minister told a press conference. He vowed Israel would fight until this battle is won, adding about Hamas, we are going to resign them to the dustbin of history. Well, that's quite the statement. Hamas murdered children in front of their parents, parents in front of their children. They burnt people alive. They raped women. They beheaded men. They tortured Holocaust survivors and kidnapped babies. And they probably did do a lot of that fucking shit. If the truth to be told, it's just who's backing them. He said the Israeli army was going out of its way to prevent civilian casualties in Gaza. Well, I don't know about that, but Netanyahu also told press conferences that other countries must give more help in the struggle to free more than the 230 hostages seized by Hamas. He said the international community must demand the captives be freed immediately, unconditionally. Yeah, that's about the only card they got to hold is those hostages. Everybody knows it. Among the captives were 33 children, and Hamas was terrorizing them, keeping them as hostages, according to Netanyahu. He added, in 1944, the RFA bombed the Gestapo headquarters in Copenhagen. It's a perfectly legitimate target. But the British pilots missed, and instead of the Gestapo headquarters, they hit a children's hospital nearby, and I think 84 children were hardly burned to death. That is not a war crime. That is something you blame Britain for doing. That was a legitimate act of war with tragic consequences that accompanied such legitimate actions. And you didn't tell the Allies, don't stomp out Nazism because of such tragic consequences. Okay, so what he's saying is that during the Nazi war, the British hit a hospital, but that didn't stop them from taking out the Nazis, I guess. They went to the end because they knew the future of our civilization was at stake. I'm telling you right now, not the future of our civilization is at stake. We have to win this war. The health ministry in Hamas-run Gaza says at least 8,306 people, mostly civilians, have been killed in Israel air and artillery strikes since the war erupted October 7th. In the occupied West Bank, more than 110 Palestinians have been killed in violence and Israeli raids. He said Hamas was responsible for a high death toll in Gaza, accusing the group of using civilians as human shields. The Israeli military confirmed yesterday that 239 hostages aged between a few months and 80 years old are thought to have been taken during the attack. Some pictures for you. Get those pretty pictures. Israel has since launched an intense bombardment of Gaza, prompting fears for safety of the hostages, many of whom were thought to be being held in Hamas tunnels network. Relatives concerned about Israelis escalating attacks in Gaza demand to know the government's plan for the rescue of their loved ones in a tense meeting with Netanyahu yesterday. Mariev Lashin Gonen, the mother of Rami Gonen, 23, who was abducted from the Supernova Dance Music Festival, said, "We spoke bluntly and made it clear to the Prime Minister that comprehensive deal based on everyone for everyone principle is the deal the families would consider and has support of all of Israel." She said families went to the meeting with an unequivocal demand: the Israeli plans for military action should weigh up the well-being of our loved ones. Naomi Alam, whose girlfriend Inbat Hyman was also taken from the festival, said freeing the hostages should be the priority for the government. He told the BBC Israel should pay the highest price to bring them back. Israel left them behind on the 7th. Yeah, and they did, too. It was like a stand down. Igael, father of and everyone for everyone deal. The hostages were seized when hundreds of Hamas gunmen stormed across the border in southern Israel to attack kibbutz communities, towns, and military bases. Authorities believe they're being held in a giant network of underground tunnels built by Hamas in besieged territory. Terrorists said they will release them in return for thousands of Palestinian prisoners held by the Israeli, but Netanyahu has dismissed the offer. Israel expanded its military assault deeper into the northern Gaza Strip as the UN and medical staff expressed fears over airstrikes hitting closer to hospitals where tens of thousands of Palestinians have sought shelter alongside thousands of wounded. Relief workers said the largest convoy of humanitarian aid to arrive in Gaza still fell far short of needs. Israeli tanks entered Gaza City today while IDF troops were pelted with rocks as they carried out raids against the Palestinian groups in the West Bank. They're getting hit by rocks. Gosh. The signs that the Jewish state was stepping up its military operations in the region came as a UN official warned Gaza Strip was on the brink of a social collapse, with mobs looting warehouses for food and families forced to drink dirty water. Fears for the more 2.2 million living in the small territory are rising rapidly as Israel presses on with the second stage of its war to eliminate Hamas. Yeah, they've been cutting off all their food and all their supplies. And again, I mean, what do you expect is going to happen during war? I mean, think about it. The Israeli military said it's killed dozens of terrorist groups' fighters overnight in clashes inside Gaza. Hamas also said its fighters were engaged in heavy fighting with Israel forces in northern Gaza. Prime Minister Netanyahu warned the assault would be a long and difficult one. Gaza's population north of the territory, some 1.1 million people, have been ordered to evacuate south in anticipation of Israeli ground offensive, plunging the region even deeper into a humanitarian crisis. Israel was gradually moving ahead according to the plan in the Gaza Strip, Chief Military Admiral Dan Hagari said during the press briefing on Monday. That's the end of the story. Eyewitness captures more tank fires on a vehicle and bam! Jeez Louise, did you see that? Watch. I mean, wow. I mean, bam! Just blew that car to hell. Goodness. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoy the content, smash the like button, subscribe. Toodaloo.